Good evening, and welcome to the 47th edition of the webinar that we call LIVRESQ Empower Your Teaching. We're here to talk about an exciting topic, and it's mostly about navigation and setting navigation inside a project. So this is a very specific topic that we're going to talk about, and it's specifically designed for projects that have multiple sections. So if you have a project with multiple sections, the question is how you navigate within those sections. And also I'm going to remind you the way we can guide the learner through content in general, even if you decide to work in a single section. So I will share my screen just to show you the platform. If you want or if you need me to go through any of the basics, you can write in chat. So you can watch us now live in one of two ways. You can either be watching us on Zoom live, or you can be watching us on Facebook Live. And in both those situations, you can write a comment or write in chat, and I'll see it and I can answer in real time at any point. Also, if you are watching a recording of this, because we do record these meetings and we also upload them to YouTube. So if you're watching a recording of this, don't forget to, just one second, so I can set up everything. You can always leave a comment, ask your questions, and a member of our team will get back to you as soon as possible. Right. So navigating inside a project, or how to do use navigation when we have multiple sections, because projects in LIVRESQ can have one or two sections. When you create a new project, which is what I've done here, this is the project that was automatically created. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I know you might be having trouble seeing my screen. So this is what the project looks like. It already has a section. I have the opportunity to create multiple sections for this project. I already have one. It's empty because this is a blank project. That's what we're starting from. And I have the possibility to add another section using the plus button up here. I use the plus button. I can add another section. We don't offer, thank you for the question, but unfortunately we don't offer any type of certification or any type of anything really for participating in webinars. We offer them for courses only, and you can find more about courses on our official website. Right, so we have two sections currently. And the navigation between them, and in order to set navigation between these sections, we need to go under Preferences. I'm going to add a little bit of content just so that we can tell the difference between these two sections once we're inside the project. So once I'm inside section 1, maybe I'll see an image. I just dragged and dropped an image and added it to my project. And once I'm inside section 2, maybe we get a quiz, just so that we can have something and we can see it when we enter section number 2. 1 second. It's taking a while. Okay, here we go. So we know that in section number 2 we have a quiz, and we know that in section number 1 we have an image. If I preview my project with the current settings, in order to see both sections, so there are multiple ways, and we've talked about this in a previous webinar, there are multiple ways to preview our work. And the preview button allows us to see what the learner, what our students will see. So it's interactive as opposed to me entering each section like this, and this is the edit mode. I get to see the content so that I can edit it. I get to interact with content in order to edit it. The way I get to see what my learner will see is by using the view mode. Now, if I activate view mode from inside my section, I only get to see that section, obviously. In order to see both sections, I need to get back to the project level, and I can do this by following the breadcrumb up here. I enter the section, I get to the project level, and I go into view mode up here. So from the sections menu, I can see both of them. I enter view mode, And here I have these arrows on the side. And one of the questions, Andrew's question actually, was about this, about how we can use LIVRESQ similar to Articulate, where we get, for instance, slides that we can just navigate through using arrows. This is the basic navigation way that LIVRESQ is set in. So if I click on this arrow, I get to see the next section. This is fine when we have a little bit of content. Before I show you how to change it, I'm going to sort of give you arguments on why this might not be suitable. So if I add sections with just one screen of content, like I had here, I had one image, a little bit of text that was already added, and I can just use the arrow to move into the next one. But if I go inside my section and, for instance, add more content, I can add maybe a matrix. So this is a crossword puzzle. Then I can add an accordion. It's just going to be a little while. I know I'm going to cover your screen for a second. Please excuse me while I do. Okay. Just 1 second. We have a lot of traffic right now, which is why this is a little bit slow. So I've added another bit of content, and then I can add maybe a video under. So the way I get to see more content inside a section is by scrolling. This is the only way we get to see inside a section. I can use the arrows to navigate between sections. And the problem, or one of the reasons why you may not want to use arrows, is because if I go into view mode for my entire project, I get to see the first few things that I added inside my section, but if I don't know that you've added more, I can already see the arrow and navigate to the next section easily. So I go back and I actually, if I scroll, I get to see that there's more content. But if I press on the arrow, I'd skip this content. So that's why normally, as instructional designers who use LIVRESQ, we prefer using a scroll option, or we prefer guiding navigation with a message, with a virtual assistant, or guiding navigation with barriers, but just created as an infinite scroll, for instance. But this, if you want to create slides, you have the option to add these arrows, and you can change the placement, and we're gonna see what options we have for these arrows in a minute. Arrows, and we change them using the Preferences menu. In the Preferences, in order to change navigation, we need to scroll down through all of these elements, and this is what our options, these are our options. We have infinite scrolling, which will eliminate, and this is a mock-up of your project. You get to see what it would look like. It's not your actual content. But if I select this, notice that these buttons will disappear, because now the only way to navigate between sections is to keep scrolling. Sequential scrolling allows me to add buttons, but if we go on preview to actually look at our work, not that mock-up, we now see that we have the entire section number 1, and if we scroll down, we have section 2. So no real divide between sections. You can do that, that's fine. You can even work in an entire section and then you can just scroll down. That's also okay, no problem, no restriction related to that. So it works, it's fine. If you do want to use the sequential scrolling, these buttons appear, but you can change where you place these buttons. So they can be placed at the top, which is on this secondary toolbar up here. And this is where the button is now, and where the back button is. You need to be very careful, maybe instruct the learner that these buttons exist so that they can see them. So even for the buttons that are in the middle, I would still instruct the learner. I would add a little bit of an indication, a little bit of an instruction that these buttons exist and that they need to scroll through to get to that to get to the next section. The difference between middle protected and middle overlaid is how the buttons react with the content. So middle protected means that they will not overlap the content, which is a preferred version in terms of accessibility. If we have overlaid, this will place the button over the content, and then your learners might have a little bit of trouble clicking on things, but it might look more transparent, more sleek, so again, it's up to you. And the third option is to hide these buttons altogether, meaning that my sections will not have infinite scroll. My sections won't have, so I can't navigate by just scrolling down. For instance, if we go into view mode now, it all ends at the video so it all ends at the end of section 1, which ended with a video according to all the content that we've added. And right now, my learner has no way to navigate to section 2. And this is where we can use either a button, a barrier, or the avatar to navigate to the next section. The easiest way is to use a button. And in order to create a button, I'll add a row with 3 cells, first of all. We'll create a button using a text, but you can do it for an image as well. This essentially means that you make a bit of text or an image interactive. The learner can click it and they can move on to the next section. So I'll just add text inside my middle cell and I'll say go to section 2 or chapter 2. We call them sections, but you can call them whatever you want. They are just one way of dividing your content. It can be whatever you feel would fit best. So we have go to section 2 or go to chapter 2. This is our call to action on the button. We'll move it to the middle. And I'll change the background just so that we can signal that maybe this is a button. It's a little bit different. I know it doesn't look great, but just giving it a little bit of a color. I select this text box, the resource, and under properties on the right-hand side, we can assign it an action. We can either make it launch a resource, follow a bookmark, or follow a link. So this can be a button that sends you somewhere outside LIVRESQ, or this can be a button that sends you to another part of the course, which is a part of the course that I've signaled with a bookmark. I've added a bookmark, for example, to section number 2 to the very top of it, and then I can make this button follow that bookmark. Now we don't know which one it is, so I'm just going to very quickly go to section number 2. It's already, the bookmark is already here. It's this blue star up here. I'll remove it just to show you how to add it. Bookmarks have 2 purposes: to create the table of contents and to be able to aid navigation within the project, like we're going to do now. Bookmarks are essentially anchors or actual bookmarks that we add to content that tells the platform this is where something is. To add a bookmark, we select an element, whether it's a row, a cell, or a resource, and we click on this little star up here. It says put a bookmark when I hover my mouse over it. And it's already here. I know it's here because I can see the blue star on the row. I can eliminate it by clicking it or remove it by clicking on it again. To change the title, the text of the bookmark, to show the platform what the bookmark is called and what part of the course I'm in, I go under Properties in a different panel called Bookmarks, and I can edit the name of my bookmark. We'll call it Section 2, just so that it's easier for us to identify. And then when I go back to section number 1, to the button I was creating, the action is follow bookmark, and I get to follow the bookmark to section 2. And now you even have this icon here, the launcher icon. You can hide it, you can change its location according to how you design the button, you can add more colors, whatever you see fit or whatever fits into your design. We'll just leave it. It signals to the learner that this is a button. And now if we go under project, under the entire project, so I've navigated back to where I see both my sections. Otherwise, if I preview from one section, I won't be able to move to the next. We go into view mode. We notice that our section finishes after the button, just like we've done, but we have the possibility, even though we have no buttons here because I've hidden them, so we still have sequential scrolling, but we have no buttons. The buttons are currently hidden. I get to click this and I can move on to the next section. So I have a button linking the end of section 1 to the beginning of section 2. And of course, I can do even more complex structures, navigating between sections in different ways, skipping sections if I don't need them, or maybe have a button or have the button appear in case something happens or I need something in particular. Right. So this is the easiest way. We create a button. We've hidden the LIVRESQ buttons and we've created our very, very own button. Now, the next thing we can do is add a barrier. I'm going to delete this row with the button. And what the barrier does, however, if this is the first time you've seen a LIVRESQ barrier, this sections the content so that I can make sure that my learner has seen and interacted with the content above the barrier before they can move on. And the barrier is always connected to the closest resource to it. The fact that I've placed a barrier after a video means that I can only move forward in my content after I finish watching the video. So I cannot have a button here, it's locked. We see that little locked icon. It won't unlock unless I watch the video. I can write why the barrier is locked. So I can explain to my learner the fact that until they watch the video, they won't be able to move forward. I can just write something like watch the video to move on to section 2. And then the continuation is the text on the barrier that appears when the barrier is active. So after my learner finished watching the 9 seconds of video. So we'll just go here and say, go to section 2. Right. Again, we're going back to the project so that we can navigate between sections, because right now, if I preview from section level, I'll only be able to see this section. I click on the project, go into view mode. Everything ends at my barrier. The barrier is only connected to the closest interactive resource to it, so this is why I don't have to interact with everything else. It's okay for me just to interact with this video. We'll put it on mute so it doesn't disturb us. Then we'll let it play, and after it finishes playing, after the 9 seconds of video, that is the placeholder video in LIVRESQ, the button navigates, and we can navigate to section 2. So the barrier itself is a button, very similar to the button we've created, but it automatically sends us to the next bit of content instead of us having to link to the next bit of content. And the avatar works in a similar way. We'll just place a speech or a virtual assistant. We also call him avatar. We'll place a virtual assistant here. We'll say go to section 2. It's not a good idea, and it will never work if you use both an avatar and barrier inside the same section. I actually don't encourage it. I encourage you to never do it. So choose one way to work with the navigation. Either use the assistant or use the barrier. That's why I'm going to delete the barrier here. And now let's see what happens. The assistant won't appear with the settings that I've placed on him unless we watch the video as well. So he kind of works like a barrier, but the discussion about assistance is a little bit more complex, so I won't get into that. I hope you don't mind, because we have previous videos where I explained every bit of the settings that we need to do for the assistant. If we preview everything, again, we'll need to watch the video. I'll put it on mute again. He'll pop up after the end of the video. He has the continue button, he's interactive, and he'll allow us to move to the next section. Here we go to section 2, I click on continue, and we are moved automatically to section number 2. This is how it usually works, and that's why in the beginning of the video I told you that I'm also going to talk about assistance and barriers. Now, LIVRESQ generally is very versatile, so we really want to give you all the possibilities, and I hope this convinced you, even with regards to navigation, not just design of the page and the fact that you can add CSS and change a lot of other things. LIVRESQ is very, very customizable. You might need it to be a collection of slide-like content. In the same way I've done in the beginning, where we had these arrows that allowed us to navigate between sections. With the mention that if you add more content to a section, The learner needs to know either that there's the button there or that they need to scroll down to see more of the section. Otherwise, it's very easy for learners in general to skip content in that way if you choose that navigation. So again, just a quick recap. We have three main ways to navigate. Four. One of them is the infinite scrolling. This is the easiest, most intuitive one. It's like a Facebook wall. It's like a never-ending TikTok or Instagram Reels where you just swipe up. Notice, by the way, if I click on infinite scrolling, besides these buttons that disappear in my mock project, the scrolling slider here will become a lot smaller because I have more content now to scroll through. Essentially what it did is adding all the sections and placing them one right after the other. There is no difference between them. I just scroll down and I can keep navigating. That's the first way. Then we have sequential scrolling, and sequential scrolling means that sections remain separate in the same way I've set them up when I've created multiple sections for my project. And then I can either use navigation buttons where that I can place either in the middle protected, so outside the content, or over the content. I can add them to the top, or I can hide them. But if I hide them, this means that the learner has no way to move between sections unless I specifically add a way. And that's where we can use either buttons, we can use barriers or virtual assistants to guide the learner from section to section. Having said that, if you are a beginner, an absolute beginner, you've never worked in LIVRESQ before, I encourage you to use a single section for all of your content, to not overcomplicate things with multiple sections. But if you do need your content to be slide-like, where you navigate using the arrow and you have a little bit of content on the screen and then you click right or left, for instance, just to navigate between slides, then you will need to set up the navigation using the buttons, which is what happens usually when we just create a project that's from scratch, and that's the basic navigation that is activated. Okay. I've done a lot of talking. I hope that was clear. It's not really 100% a webinar for beginners, but even if you are a beginner, I hope that I've helped you understand how LIVRESQ is structured and what you can do with LIVRESQ a little bit better. Again, if you have any questions, please write them in the chat, whether it's the chat on Facebook, the chat in Zoom. If you're watching a recording of this, please leave us a comment with your questions and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, I'll wait for a few minutes for the questions in case you're typing them. This was again very more advanced, more geared towards advanced users. We have a lot more options to begin creating content and to sort of create content a little bit easier. This was a completely empty project. We started from a blank project. I didn't even show you the steps to start from that blank project. This is a project where we can add even things that have to do with the design and with graphics and everything else. But we can create a project using AI. We can start from a template. So there are easier ways if you're just starting out. Okay. So no questions. I guess that can be a good thing. All right. If there are no questions, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was great talking about this. I enjoy I enjoy talking about specifics like this because I hope it's eye-opening to many of you. We are here mostly every other Thursday, so twice a month. I'm here twice a month at 6:30 Central European Time, sorry. And we're live on Zoom, live on Facebook, and you can also watch a recording of this in our YouTube channel. And in order to get to our YouTube channel easily, you can go into the organizer when you open the LIVRESQ author and you have a link here. where you can see all the previous webinars, both in Romanian and in English. These are the two languages we cover so far. All right. Thank you so much. It was great to be here, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Have a great evening.